How you doing?
I'm
We've
good.
we've been Facebook friends for some time now.
Yeah, I think we have. And we
Yeah.
like never interacted. Or maybe we did in the beginning and all of a sudden
Right,
I'm
right.
like, wait a minute, who is this? And I say that all the time. I say I have all these friends and I never interact with them. So I've been trying to be more mindful about going through my friends list and going, who's this person? What's this person
Right,
doing?
right.
It's hard
Um,
though.
so me, I am a journalist. I just got my U.S. Press
I
Association
saw that.
credentials, and
Congratulations.
I logged into the site for the first time. I was like, I felt so proud of myself. But press badge should be in the mail pretty soon. So
So you're gonna go
anyway,
around and like be like, press badge, let me in, coming through. Got
I'm
stuff to
already doing
say.
that. I'm
That's
already doing that
awesome.
without the press badge. I run a site called the Daily Counter.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've been on there checking it
yeah.
out.
So I go after some pretty hard hitting subjects. I tend to stay focused right here in South Carolina, but I do cover a lot of stories outside of the state. Some of them, some of them, other states. A lot of them are international. Some from Canada. I've covered. Well, actually, a partner of mine covered a case in Germany,
Oh
uh,
wow.
and so we cover things all over the country. We do have a large focus on family courts, um, mainly because we think that there needs to be reforms,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't want to inject our personal opinion into that. If an article appears on my site and it's opinion based, we will mark it as such, and we have a category for that called concerned citizen,
Mm-hmm.
and that's for the op-eds. Now, but for everything else, we are 100% fact based, and we
Awesome.
open ourselves for criticism. If you find something on our site that is in fact that is not factual and you can show the evidence, we will do an update.
So are you terribly busy today trying to figure out what's going on with the stock market?
Yes,
Black Monday.
that was crazy. I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, and I suppose it's all Trump's fault. That's what
I'm
I've been
not.
hearing.
I don't know. I don't know, but I have noticed that the crude oil prices have dropped a lot because in my neighborhood, gas is like 188.
Nice.
So it's like super duper low. But then again, South Carolina is really low, like anyways. But that was the lowest I've seen all year.
Yeah.
So
And so is a lot of your content geared at showing that maybe how we point our fingers at Trump isn't always correct? You go and dig through stories
um,
that,
I I I'm starting to do that. At first, I didn't want it to make it super political, but when I decided um to go and make a news site and get and become like an LLC and then get U.S. Press U.S. Press Association credentials, I figured I should start branching out into things. Like recently, we started getting into the whole thing with the coronavirus,
mm,
but because I just published one on this morning where we were talking about are our airports ready for the coronavirus? And so I
mm-hmm.
looked into my own state, and I can say yes and no. Some places no, some places yes. I mean, the only precautions that some of them have taken thus far is doing extra cleaning. I mean, they haven't even talked to the CDC or like DHEC or anybody else, so it's like it's kind of scary
And
thinking
what do
about that.
you
But
think about coronavirus? Do you think it is this, we should be as panicked as it seems the media wants us to be, or?
um, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I think that honestly, with the death rate being what it is, you shouldn't panic. And
Mm-hmm.
the problem with this is people think the virus is what's going to kill them. No, the panic is what's going to kill you. Because
Uh-huh.
when you hear about a suspected case of coronavirus, you go by the freaking grocery store and you see shelves empty. Like for example, I went the other day. I got a little cut on my leg, and I wanted to go get some rubbing alcohol so I can kind of like sanitize something. And I went to the CVS around the corner, and they were sold out. And it
Of
was like
alcohol.
of rubbing alcohol, and I was like,
Wow.
it's like wait. I said wait. So you guys, when you fully stock this, you have like 50 bottles. And you just stocked this yesterday. Yeah, they're all gone. Like
Yeah.
who's buying that much alcohol?
And toilet paper. The toilet paper.
Yeah, some of
Toilet
it's
paper
gone.
was trending on Twitter. It had like 10,000 tweets in an hour. And I'm over here going, is one of the side effects like diarrhea or something? Am I not getting what the symptoms are? Why are people rushing to get toilet paper of all
Upset
things?
stomach, diarrhea. That's
I'm
how
over
it
here
is, man.
like, where's your garlic? Where's your ginseng? Where's your turmeric? Where
Your silver
is
bullet.
your ginger? Go stock up and get yourself healthy so you can boost your immunities. I don't know what
Well,
toilet
the
paper is
thing
supposed to
about it
do.
is The thing about it is that people tend to prepare way too late. Like for example, people laugh at me, but outside I have four 50-gallon drums of water, and people
Yeah.
laugh at me because I have it in my backyard. Like, oh, you a crazy prepper. I'm like, yeah. When you run out of water, you ain't gonna be laughing no more.
I hear
Because
you. Yep.
yeah, because here's the thing, you gotta take basic stuff. Like for example, stock up on rubbing alcohol. Get at least like one bottle. Get some food that's not going to perish. Get some water. And I'm not saying that for the disease. I'm saying that for the panic because when you go by the grocery stores, like I just said, it's getting more and more barren. What I would suggest is you hit up all the dollar stores first, so you can get all the
Mm,
cheapest deals first, and then
hmm
go over to Walmart because you go to Walmart now in some cities, man. Good luck.
I know. Do what our grandparents do. Like my in-laws, you go down in their basement, it's like they have a grocery store down there. Like,
Yeah.
and because, they came out of parents who lived through the Great Depression. So they were taught to plan. And we live on a farm. So, like, we can stuff. So we'll always have food. I remember a couple of years ago, we got into prepping and we were like, we need honey, we need vodka, we need whiskey, and we need chocolate. Those are going to be
Right.
the four things that people, and we were doing that too, and just buying in bulk. But there's a lot of stuff out there right now that says if you're buying in bulk, you're privileged, you don't care about people, you're elitist, you're a snob. Planning is
Mm.
selfish, hoarding is selfish. And I'm like, well, that's the wrong message we're sending out. Planning, we've always been told to be planners, to plan for
Well,
chaos and emergency.
when stuff hits the fan, there's not going to be a thing as privileged or unprivileged anymore. It's just going to be who has and who doesn't. That's what it's going to come
Exactly.
down to. So
Exactly. That's why
people
we
have
have
this.
a bull. That's why we have a bull and we have cows, because you never know. We might need
You
beef
never know.
someday. You never know. I'll
Yeah,
butcher my
like
beef anyway, but
well, the thing is like people have this idea of prepping, right? And
hmm
that unfortunately you do have an influx of conspiracy theorists and that kind of people in the prepping community because a lot of them are prepping based on those conspiracies. Now, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the conspiracies themselves because at one point we call a lot of things conspiracies that turn out to be true.
that's
But
right.
the thing about it is that people judge all preppers based on those people, and the thing that I always explain to people is that let's say you have a hurricane.
Mm.
Happens all the time,
All the
especially in
time.
my state. It's I mean like my state is a coastal state,
hmm
so it happens here all the time. I said, and then what's going to happen when the emergency personnel can't get to you, and
Exactly.
it's been like 2 or 3 weeks. That could
And
happen.
yep, and we live in our threats are tornadoes, and Nashville just got hit. And
Yeah.
it's like you wouldn't be laughing at people whose houses were still standing if they did have water and toilet paper and rubbing alcohol, because being prepared is just kind of a practice I thought we used to teach our children growing up.
Right.
Like, be prepared, plan for emergencies, make sure you have money in the bank, make sure you have extra food in your basement, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. That never was a crazy idea to plan for. But now it seems like, because everything is replaceable and because we just kind of live moment to moment and take care of our current needs, we don't think about
Mm-hmm.
something like the stock market plummeting or a
Yeah.
coronavirus spreading or whatever it is. I woke up this morning and saw the stock market was crashing and they halted trading, and all I could see was that it was all Trump's fault. And I think last week or a week before, he was taking credit for the economy being so great and the stock market being so high. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
curious what your thoughts are. Do you think the president has that much influence over the stock market?
I think he does and he doesn't. For example, if he passes some great policy for like businesses, like for example, the tax cut.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so much for business. This is for the middle and working class and poor people. So they were getting huge tax cuts, and I actually saw it personally. Because
Yeah.
I run a business now.
Yeah.
I saw it personally, and I will say that I don't think that he's to blame for the stock market crash. I will say this is that it is in some ways he's a victim of circumstance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, he had a trade war with China, and
Yep.
that trade war couldn't have possibly helped him with that coronavirus thing. It was killing him. It was killing him. It was wrecking
Mm-hmm.
him.
Yep.
So I mean that might have contributed, But do I think that he's to blame for the stock market crash? Well, the stock market rose and crashed with Barack Obama, with George Bush, with Bill Clinton, with George Bush daddy,
Yeah.
Reagan. I mean, even with Reagan was known as the money guy,
Yeah.
and stock markets went up and down even with him. So
Yeah.
the thing that people have to understand is that whether you like it or not, and I personally don't care for it. This my personal opinion, that the world is interconnected now more than ever. What could happen in
Mm,
China could sink the markets here.
that's true.
So
That's true.
so right now, a lot of what we're seeing is not on Trump or even us. I will say that the U.S. entering the energy market, producing its own like crude oil, that might have contributed some, but that's not Trump's fault.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I think was the largest contributing factor for the stock market crashing is that crude oil prices have just dropped. It just plummeted. Like
Yeah.
I just said that like the gas around the corner was like 188. I've never seen it in my more than 10 years of living here. I've never seen it that low.
Yeah.
So um, I don't foresee this continuing because with gas prices being so low, people are going to start buying, people are going to start traveling more, and we're getting into spring now, into some of the warmer months. So you're going to see a lot of travel, like pretty much pick up.
Yeah.
Kids are going to be outside a lot more often. A lot of sports are gonna pretty much pick up. Plus, we got a lot of championship games that are coming up, like the NBA Finals and the Final Four. You're gonna have a lot of economy boosting events that's gonna happen. So I think that what's happening with the media, especially now that I'm in the media, and I've talked to publications and the journalists, is that what you got to understand is this: I don't do this, but I get why it's done. There's a concept in the media called "if it bleeds, it leads."
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So pretty much the only way they're going to really write a story and kind of blow it up to where it probably should be is if they can make it out to be as bad as it could potentially be. Like for example, if you were to read some of the articles that have come out, a lot of it's like speculation.
Yeah.
A lot of it doesn't give you long term projections. A lot of it is just a bunch of hearsay, and
Yeah.
they have to run it like that because otherwise, and just something for your audience to kind of take in some, and something that I don't particularly like, but it is a factor in human nature. If people didn't put those kind of things into articles, would you really read them?
Exactly.
Here's the thing: I could put out 1,000 articles about Kim Kardashian right now, and that will be number one publication in my whole state in no time.
Yeah.
But I publish articles about family court, about potholes in the road, about workers' comp claims, about the coronavirus at the airport, stuff like that. I don't comment about Trump saying poo poo on Twitter. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't do that kind of stuff. And the reason why the gossipy and the reason why the heavy sensationalized stuff, the clickbaity stuff is being done is because the audience reads it.
Yeah. And they consume it and then they want more and more and more. It's like a sugar addiction. They eat all this shit and then
Well,
they keep wanting it. And it's like there's all this nutritious stuff out there that could
but
actually make your life better.
but they'll turn around and complain that saying, well, the media only runs this type of article. Well, here's how you stop that. You vote with your wallet. You don't watch that kind of stuff. You don't read that kind of stuff
Yes.
because it's not important. It's
It's
not
really
something that's
not.
it's gonna change your life.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a part of that difference. I wanted to try to bring actual news to people. I didn't want people to go to my site and say, oh well, let's go read about what Trump did. I'm not interested in that. I got a dog in here, so 100-pound pit bull. Come here, Azul. Come on, let's go out. I'm working. Come on. Yeah, that was my good dog. But anyways, so the thing about the media that you need to basically get about Trump. The media writes so many negative things about Trump because people want to see that. He's an
Yeah.
easy target.
Yeah.
Like he says a lot of bombastic things. He says a whole lot of things that he intentionally goes after people, and he intentionally is a little bit incendiary on Twitter
Hmm.
because he knows that the media is pretty much gonna cover it.
Yeah.
The media helped to elect him.
They
because
did.
he didn't. When you actually look at the advertising numbers for Hillary Clinton and the amount of money that she spent on her campaign, what you'll find is that she outspent Trump by magnitudes. I mean, it was ridiculous. So what Trump had to pretty much do was force the media to advertise for him
Yeah,
because what they don't get is that in the world of professional wrestling and reality TV, two things that Trump understands very, very well is that negative press is not really bad press.
exactly.
If
Yeah.
it, and if you don't believe that, review Kanye West.
Thank you. I know they are shrewd, smart businessmen. They know exactly
Exactly.
what they're doing. I've always said that about Trump. And I mean, I didn't in the Republican primaries, I was like, that was my Ted Cruz days. I was like all about
Right.
Ted Cruz. But then after he won, and I think we all were like, he ain't gonna win. And then he won, and then I saw this hatred, and I was like, I thought the whole world loved Donald Trump. Like, this is a dream. We had another superstar like Reagan come in to the White House, do his thing. He barely had to drop a dime to advertise. That is smart as shit. Imagine what he could do with our economy. Imagine what he could do with our country. But it's
Well,
like no
so
matter what
far,
this dude does, it's never good enough, and he can never do good, and that's the saddest part of it all. Is it really
well,
is good?
the thing to think about is that when it comes to Trump, I criticize him a lot, and the reason why I do that is because I actually like him. And when I criticize him, I find things done within policy that I don't agree with.
Yeah,
The man personally, I kind of like him because me
yeah,
and him are very similar. If you see anything that I post on Facebook, I could be pretty incendiary too. And so I
me too.
realize not yeah, so I do realize that he does it for a reason, and that's why I don't really make a whole lot of comments about it. The only thing that I do take issue with Trump is some of the things that I think that he could do differently. Like for example, when it comes to that Syria strike, don't let people bait you into striking countries. Like we don't need no more wars, man.
Yeah,
Like let's
yeah,
let's let's just pull all our guys out of the Middle East. I'm actually a combat veteran, so I've been there and done that, man. And I
yeah,
can tell you, like, we need to get our boys out of there because it's like I get that you want to do the job, but the problem is that once you fumble it so bad, it's just no point. And so that's why I was reluctantly happy when the Taliban and the U.S. reached some kind of agreement because I,
yes,
I used to I used to the freaking Taliban to launch freaking rockets at me, so I still hold a grudge against those guys. Understandably, they tried to freaking kill me, but I do see the bigger picture. I did want every Taliban member to be caught and prosecuted, but at the same time, I got to think about the bigger picture, about our boys, about the Afghan people, and quite frankly, even the enemy. I mean, they have families too, and you don't want to make fatherless homes. You know,
yes, yes.
so
And so, what are your thoughts on the upcoming election? Are you a voter, and do you know who you're voting for? Do you vote one side, or are you waiting to see who the Democratic candidate is, or what's going on with
mm,
that?
I'm gonna tell you something right now. Um, I still want to see more out of Trump, namely family court reform. And I
Hmm.
want him to get off the whole anti-weed nonsense in the freaking drug
Yeah.
war, dude. I want to see that. However, as I look across the Democratic field, who am I supposed to vote for again? Um,
Biden, Sanders, and
oh,
Gabbard are still in the race.
okay, Tulsi Gabbard, I actually like her.
I
I
do
like her a lot.
too. I
You
do
want to
too.
know why? You want to know why I like her? Is because she's everything that Bernie Sanders is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Minus the communism.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yes.
much everything she's supposed to be. Now, granted, she has some anti-gun positions, and that's something that I really really wish that she would change because she
Hmm.
would get a lot more veteran support. But overall, her and Buddy Geek or Booty Judge
Yeah.
or those were the two most viable ones.
I agree. I agree. I
Yeah,
don't know why we're looking at Biden. Biden. We knew
Biden
back when
can't win.
we knew Biden was someone we made fun of and a little dummy and a little peon back during Obama's administration. I mean, I shared the memes. So
Well,
for me to take that seriously now, I'm like, you cannot be, you just putting up your own version of your perception of Trump is what I see the
yeah,
Democrats doing. And it's
Well,
insane.
if they were gonna do that, you might as well try to run like AOC. But she's not
Yeah.
old enough. I
She's
don't
not
think.
old enough. No.
If you ran AOC, believe it or not, as crazy as she is and as
Ugh.
nutty as she is, she's got a shot.
She
Believe it or
does.
not.
I
Believe
think
it or
she
not,
knows
because
that too.
yeah,
I think they're grooming her for that. I really do.
she is out of her mind.
She
Like the whole
is.
thing with the cow farts thing, I was like, there's no way that's true. So I go over to her actual website. I started reading about the Green New Deal, the actual website, and
Yeah.
it did say that. And it's
Yeah.
like, what? That
Yeah.
was wild to
Clearly,
me.
she's never spent any time in any kind of agricultural environment before to even come up with something with some of the crazy things that she talks about doing and implementing. I'm like, you are going to just hurt everybody that produces everything for this country by initiating a
Yeah.
plan like this and thinking that taxing people is going to save us from the inevitable 12-year catastrophe. How's that going to happen? We throw money at
Well,
things and then what the green gods will save us, I guess. I don't know what it is.
my whole thing is with the whole Green New Deal and about the climate change thing and everything else is that I've read several studies, and the one thing that all the experts, from what I saw, seems to be saying is that it's already too late. So it's
Yeah.
already too late. Why am I making myself miserable when I know
Mm,
what's already coming? Unless there's more to the story than what I'm being told.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I mean, I don't even know where we stand as far as what the overall climate and environment is looking like, but I think there's got to be a different way than scaring people and threatening people and taxing people to get people to individually care about their environment, because there are easy practices that we could do that don't create some kind of legislative budget in the trillions that we could implement and get people to care about their environment and to care about what they're doing and to be more considerate about reusing, recycling, and reducing. But how do you juxtapose that with the consumerism and the materialism of the world? I mean, this country is crazy for it. And then you want to say, now be considerate of the environment. Well, that those butt against each other. We can't do both. And then it's like, well, what do? I guess if we want communism, we could reduce consumerism because capitalism is apparently bad by giving us choices. Or we could just be responsible consumers and realize we don't have to buy all the stuff they throw in our face. But that's too easy. And that doesn't require trillions of dollars in a bill.
Well, the thing is too is that the problem that I see with communism, man, is that it doesn't follow human nature. If, like you just said, with capitalism, we've been given so many choices to the point where we're fat and we consume a lot. Well, then
Mm-hmm.
that's just human nature. When you let people make their own choices. Now, with communism, you want to try to structure human nature, and I'm sorry, there's no government system out there that's ever going to structure human nature. Humans are going
No.
to be humans, no matter what you do.
Mm,
You're not going to be able to control them. And so I think
exactly.
that people who are communists have this desire to control things, to control
Yes.
destiny, to control fate. The problem when a prepper hears that, the first thing that a prepper thinks is that, wow, you figured out a way to control fate. Can you tell me your secret? Because otherwise, I wouldn't be prepping if I could just change the future. The whole
Mm,
point of prepping is that you can't change the future, and so you can only prepare for it. Now, with that being said, with communism, so the one thing that I've noticed in particular with particular communists is that they'll mention their their ideas, and you'll have long debates with them, and you probably had a few debates with them on Facebook too. But they'll never tell you how they plan to achieve their goals.
no,
Like
that doesn't matter.
Bernie Sanders talks about free healthcare, free free college. I mean, he's talking about free everything, right? Which
Yeah.
is it's not actually free, but he calls it free. Um, and the one thing that I've definitely noticed is that whenever he's asked to explain about how he's gonna pay for it, usually you get one of two answers. The first thing is that you don't really get an answer. He just talks around it, like
Yep.
using the usual politician thinking. He's been in politics since the freaking Stone Age, so he knows how to do it. He's practiced it for decades now. Or you get two, right? They will then take your question as as an attack, and then
Yeah.
they will attack another group like the millionaires, billionaires, or people who are rich, or people who are well to do, or or in some cases middle class people,
Yep.
and they'll say that you're not paying your fair share. So in order to achieve what Bernie Sanders wants, you would need an effective tax rate of 50% or higher.
Yeah.
Half your stuff gone off top. That's not even including state taxes. That's
Yeah.
just federal.
And the other thing that was interesting too is like there was some CBO projections or something that looked at Bernie's Medicare for All plan and his tax rates that he wanted to impose. And it was like, sure, it looks good for the first few years, but he wants to introduce an additional wealth tax that would then tax people's stuff that they've already paid taxes on and continue to tax them year after year. And I can't remember if it was Bezos or someone that was used as the example. And sure, that works in the first 3 years, but you didn't account for liquidity. So if Jeff Bezos has to liquidate all of his stocks in order to cover all of those wealth taxes, what's going to happen to Amazon? What's going to happen to the stock market if all these rich people have to start liquidating their shares in order to meet the tax rate? Your stock market's going to crash. And then going forward, who are you going to tax? They're not billionaires anymore. They had to liquidate everything in order to pay your stupid tax. And now you're out of money. And then where are we? But, oh, that's not a problem. We'll think about that later. You can't think about that later. You are talking about promising people free healthcare and free college forever. You have to figure out how to pay for it. And the thing I always come back to, sorry, the left, but math. Do you just skip math? Like, math is important here. We're going 2 + 2 is 5, and that's how it is now. That's not how it works, but okay. Now I understand why they support this person. Nobody likes math. That's
Mm-hmm.
just my
Well,
takeaway.
well, the thing is too. This is how you gotta think about it, right? So I always try to use analogies and comparisons. So I always use this on joke when I explain Bernie Sanders' healthcare plan. I said, think of it like you are the GM of an NBA team, of a basketball team. There's a concept in basketball called a luxury tax. Whenever you spend too much on player salaries and coach salaries and everything, if you go into a luxury tax where you are charged more money based on how much the player is worth, what's the market value and everything else. So think of it like this: suppose you have a team, and your team is the American people. Now, the American people has various different people of different skills, different ability levels. Some of them are able, some of them are disabled. You pay people based on what they're contributing, right? But if you give them all the exact same thing without them contributing something, or at least a substantial amount of them contributing something, and the amount contributing doesn't necessarily reflect the necessary amount to carry over for the disabled people, much like a basketball team where the star player has to carry the bench players. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, Bernie Sanders wants America to pay a luxury tax from hell. That's basically what he wants us to do.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, yeah, I might be doing okay now, right? But after you tax me, and then you turn around, and then you force me to. I think that he also said that he wanted to bring back the individual mandate, didn't he?
Fantastic. Fantastic. I can't
Yeah,
remember, but that would just
yeah.
be fantastic.
But here's the thing, though. So I'm thinking to myself, Bernie. You know, I grew up in a AME church, and I've met a variety of pastors, variety of them. But with most of them, it was always the same. They all try to convince you that what they're doing is not a business, even though it is.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders is trying to convince you that what he's doing is going to help you, when in the end, it might help you now. All right.
Yeah.
But let's say that we have another, economic downturn or another stock market crash. Right.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen then?
Yeah. The wealth is going
See,
to
see,
dissipate.
that's the biggest difference between communism and capitalism. Capitalism can weather storms very
Yeah.
easily because we generate so much money to the point where we can survive any storm.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with communism or socialism, like for example, when you saw in Venezuela, and that is a great comparison.
Yeah.
When the crude oil prices dropped here, we didn't crash. We're still doing okay. Whereas with Venezuela, because they relied off of so much of their economy was crude oil, and they
Mhm.
promised so much free stuff to people, to the point where when the crude oil prices dropped, and you still have all that free stuff, you're gonna go bankrupt eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so the promise, the promise that Bernie Sanders is giving people, especially young people, is poison.
I agree.
It is a sweet tasting poison. It tastes sweet, but you are going to feel the effects later on. And people always look at it. I always said that people of Afghanistan and America have one thing in common,
What's
in
that?
that they think that what happens in their local area, or they think that what happens on a national level doesn't really affect them,
Mm.
but it does. Like I'll give you a prime example. Like in Afghanistan, you have a bunch of tribes there, and they don't really recognize Afghanistan as a country. They only see their tribe.
Mm.
Well, it's the exact same thing in America. Like for example, I know there's parts of the black community that don't really see themselves as Americans for various reasons. Or you
Mhm.
or you or you get people who don't vote. You get people who don't really get involved in anything that's political, or anything that's going on in the neighborhood, because if it's not right in their face, they don't care.
Mm.
If it's not right in their face.
You know,
I
that's
know, I
in
know, I know. We veered off to something else different. I'm sorry.
no, no, that's good. That's actually interesting. Because I'm not a voter. The last
Right.
I cast my last vote in 2016,
I
voted for
understand.
Gary Johnson,
I
and
understand.
after that, I just went, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I was
I
like,
understand.
anti vote. But then my husband and also one of my friends is like, but not even local. You're like, not voting locally. And I was like, no. Well, then my friend brought up, he's like, well, I checked your district. You just had a vote. He's like, do you know just one or two more votes would have changed your school's referendum bill? And I was like, oh, now you're going to put me on the spot like that. And so I didn't think about it. And so my husband is big about voting locally too. My husband is also on a township, so obviously he's political. But I hadn't thought about it that way. And the more I've been talking to people about voting and why it's important, the more I'm seeing too that, especially locally, I'm not saying I'm going to get up and start voting for all the other hoopla, but locally, I do think it's important because locally is where we can affect change. And
Right.
I think from the local standpoint, that's where you can start to widen the circumference of the change, but it has to start locally. That's why I'm a big proponent of, like, if you can't do that shit in your house, you can't do it anywhere else in the world. But if you can't
Right.
do it in your own community either and affect change and be participatory and do things with other people, how are we going to do it on a national level and then on an
Right.
international level? So
Right.
I just want to say, listeners, I hear you. Local voting is important, but um, so as it stands right now, you want to see a little bit more before you cast your vote in November. But do you think you'd go to
Yeah.
the Democrat side? Well, if it was Tulsi Gabbard, would you?
Oh, I that still be a hard pass for me. It's not so much that Tulsi Gabbard is bad. Not at all. The problem that I worry about with Tulsi Gabbard is that she wants acceptance from the DNC. And
Mm,
once you get acceptance from the DNC, they're gonna ask you to say and do certain things, and that's when you're gonna start seeing people change. Because here's the thing: I want to see you in your rawest form before you get elected. That way,
yeah,
I can kind of gauge how you're gonna change.
yeah.
Because you're gonna lie about some things. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you gotta change about some things. So imagine you have a giant statue, right? And over time, that statue gets eroded, right? Well, that's pretty much like your politician's promises. I want to
Mm,
see just how fast those things erode, and see what statue do I have left.
mm, yeah.
So it takes time to analyze. Tentatively, I would say Trump has my vote, um, mainly because the Democrats have nobody. I mean, you got a guy in freaking Joe Biden who's demented, in my opinion. Um, you got Bernie Sanders, who, God bless him, He's a nice guy. He really is. Everybody says that about him. No one's besides Elizabeth Warren and her fans has ever said anything really bad about Bernie Sanders. Besides, okay, then there was Hillary, but she claims that nobody liked him, and it's like too many people like Bernie Sanders for that to be true. Okay, I mean that with Hillary Clinton, no Hillary, that's called projection. No one likes you.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
no one likes you.
People were scared of you, Hillary. They didn't like you.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that the Hillary and Bill are murderers. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I am saying though,
There's a lot of
several
coincidences.
bodies, if several bodies popped up and my name was attached to it, would you be talking to me right now?
I feel a little
No,
worried.
probably not. Probably not. You probably like, okay, let me go ahead and call the FBI on this dude. But no, I think that right now Trump has my vote, provided we don't start any like new wars,
Mm-hmm.
provided he doesn't just do something completely crazy, because overall he's been good. Overall, all right.
Oh,
There's been
so
there's been some things that I just like the whole bump stop ban thing, but
yeah,
um, that's overall minor stuff. So long as he does not go any further than than that, I guess I can overlook that. But
yeah,
that was a big issue for me because I'm a proud Second Amendment supporter, man. I actually read the history of gun control, and it was targeted at my people. So like, no,
yes.
I don't support that. I don't
You
support that
know,
whatsoever.
and that's what the Black Panther Party was about too. Like that was
Exactly.
about
Like
arming the Black America. And
that was in 1967. There was a Republican assemblyman by the name of Don Mulford. So Don Mulford, he ran into the black. He heard about the Black Panthers, and he was so he proposed a bill which was called the Mulford Act. So that is essentially what banned open carry in the U.S. Essentially, that was banned in California, and not that long afterwards, guess who became the president? Well, the guy who was then the governor of California, Ronald Reagan. So
yeah,
that's why I say like I have criticisms of Reagan too. Like Reagan, listen, I love you, but you ain't been the ally of guns that people try to make you out to be. Because if
yeah,
you because if you were, you would have stopped Don Mulford in his freaking tracks.
yeah,
But you didn't.
yeah, 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 definitely.
So,
I
but
never thought Reagan was a proponent either. When all the
yeah,
history that I've seen,
Reagan was good on money.
yeah,
He
he
was great
was.
on money. Oh God, he was phenomenal on money. I mean, if we had that guy, man, we'd be booming right now. He'd be better than pretty much Trump. So because that was his main focus was money.
Yeah,
That's what he did.
yeah.
So um, but the one person that I really wish got a chance, I just want to hear him out. I didn't like his ideas, but I just want to hear him out. I want to hear out Andrew Yang.
I did too. Me
I
too.
want to hear him out. I want to hear him out.
Yeah.
I say, all right. If you can make the numbers work, you might be able to sway me.
Yeah, he had me
But
convinced on universal
yeah,
basic income. Like I was
yeah.
like,
But here's
that's
the
a
thing,
good
though.
idea.
Yeah, but then I looked at the numbers, and I was like, mm.
We would have to make significant cuts somewhere
Yeah,
else in order
yeah.
to make
We would
that
have
work.
to like
Yeah.
that because see here, the first thing that everybody says is, well, cut the military. Guys, the number one employer in the U.S., believe it or not, the single largest one is actually the DOD.
Mm.
Okay, so when you cut the military,
You
you're cutting
cutting
jobs.
jobs.
So,
And we
and
don't
on
want to
top of
cut
that,
jobs.
we are the guarantors of people's safety, the
Yeah.
countries. So if you don't spend that kind of money, well, do you know what you just told your allies? We
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
So if we are ever attacked, are they going to help us?
No, they
Nope.
can't. They can't. That's why we've built up the military. You know, I go back and forth on that because I
Yeah,
hate the military industrial complex and I hate the money that's made out
yeah,
of it. But at the same
yeah,
time, the left especially wants us to be the savior of the world. I mean, they do. They want us to run and save everybody. And the right has
yeah,
always been like that too. Like we have to defend our people, and if we can defend our people, we can defend other people. But now it's like, well, what do you want? Do you want us to protect them or not? And if we don't defend ourselves, we can neither defend our own people or the rest of the people. And that's that that tension that we have to find.
Well,
Go ahead. Oh, that's good.
well, here's the problem, right? There's an inherent double standard. Inherent double standard. They will say in one breath, right? There are some people on the left and some people that are on the right. Believe it or not, the freaking rhinos. They will always say, "Well, we don't want foreign wars. We don't want intervention," and they'll say that, right? And let's say that Bush or Trump starts a war. They're like, "Oh, that's horrible. You should be interfering with these countries." And then my response is, "Well, then don't take you know, a whole bunch of them into your country. That's still interfering.
It is. It is.
It is because and it is also harmful, right? Let's say that Mexico has somebody who has the aptitude to become a doctor. Well, they need doctors there, and now we're taking them all.
Yeah.
So in order for these countries to improve so that we don't have to take in so many refugees, let some of those people who have the high IQ, the intelligence, the aptitude to become doctors, lawyers, businessmen, you know, you name it, and let them go back to their countries so that they can make their countries better. We are not
Mm.
helping those countries by taking their best people.
I never even thought about it that way. No, we
We're
are
not.
not. No,
We're
we are not.
think about how many doctors you've met from India.
Yeah.
Think about that. And think about right now, coronavirus being in India right now. Where are those people more needed?
Yeah. In India.
In India.
Yeah.
But
We
they're
take
here.
the brain surgeons from China
Yep.
and all the other doctors from India, and
God, they
then what are we
yeah,
doing?
we are basically we're pilfering the best and the brightest. And that's a good thing for me being, a strong supporter of my country. But it's a bad thing too, because I want other countries to do well too. I don't want you to fail. But if
Yeah.
but if but I can't expect there to be, a great CEO when I look across Alphabet, with just like Google, right? I see so many of their best and their brightest from different countries, and it's like, dude, you could have stayed in your own country and gotten the exact same thing, but actually improved your own country.
Yeah.
But
So
you
it's like they
chose,
don't
yeah,
want to improve their country. They want to just come over here and
because
chase
we've given them the incentive to do that.
incentives. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the incentives. And because you can make
So,
a pile of money over here with barely doing anything. And it's
well,
astounding.
that you either make a pile of money or you don't really make it too much at all if you're
Yeah.
illegal.
Yeah.
Because that's the other human rights issue that people don't talk about when it comes to immigration, is that these people are being taken advantage of, and I don't think that's right. Like I I don't think that an employer should be able to take somebody, pay them below minimum wage, don't give them any kind of benefits or anything else, make them work 24 hours a day. Well, not 24 hours. I mean, I'm being like a little bit hyperbolic, but make them work long hours with no break. And there's no kind of regulation, because guess what? No one knows that they are actually here,
That's
so
true.
there are no rights.
That's true. You
And, and
know,
then and then yeah, go ahead.
well,
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, my husband and I were talking about that yesterday because farmers get such a negative rap for hiring
Yeah,
illegals. But okay, and I
exactly.
don't know how it is elsewhere, but I know out here, number one, we ain't asking you if you're legal or not. Like, we have to ask you for the
Right.
proper paperwork, but I'm not going to come to you and be like, is this real? But here's the other thing
Right.
that we do around here. If I
Right.
know that these two neighbor farmers are paying this wage to these people,
Hmm.
I want to make
Hmm.
sure that I'm offering the same thing. And we make sure around here, because we share employees, that we're paying them what they deserve. Like, and every
Right.
time they step to us and go, I'm gonna need a little bit more, we're like, okay. And then we let everybody else know, this is what we're paying them now. You're gonna step up and pay him the same. And so that's what we
Exactly.
do in this community. And and a lot of our workers are Hispanic. And we
Yeah.
develop relationships with them, and they're human beings. And what they
Right.
do is grueling work, because I'm gonna be honest, farmers are lazy sometimes. They don't want to do all that shit. And so we make
Yeah.
sure that when we are hiring people to do it, that they are getting paid exactly what they want. And I wish that was the common thing everywhere, because
Yeah.
especially out here, because we don't want to lose employees. We don't want immigration to show up and start looking at paperwork. And we don't
Right.
want these people to feel like they're looking at us going, look at you not doing shit while I'm doing all your work and I'm getting crap
Yeah.
for it. We're like, I appreciate you. I value you. Please do not leave me. What do you want? And we find as many creative ways as we can to make sure that they are happy and taken care of. But
Hmm.
I know that's not common. And that should be common. And maybe y'all can
Yeah.
just listen to me and go share this information with your fellow farmers, but that's
Yeah.
how it should be. And I think that's how the market was designed to work. Sometimes I don't
Right.
like minimum wage because I think that sets the standard too low. And it's not
Right.
paying for skill or talent and time.
Right.
Because especially the longer you've been working for me, the more I want to pay you because you have been reliable, you have been loyal, you have been here day after day. And I want to reward you for that. But now you got all these fucking millennials jumping in like, I deserve $15 an hour. And I'm like, my first job paid me $4.25 an hour. And I was like, for real? This is a lot of money. And
Well,
it's like, you got to work. You have to work for that money. And we have so many expectational people now. And I know cost of living is high, but sometimes I'm like, then get out of the city.
yeah. Well, the
Like,
thing about it is that I was at McDonald's the other day because I didn't need that. I got something for somebody else, and I saw a little kiosk in there, and because I hadn't been to McDonald's in a little minute, and I saw a little kiosk in there, and I was like, well, there's your 15 in an hour right there.
yeah.
And like, listen, the more people don't seem to understand, the more you demand, the more you push automation.
Yep.
Because look, listen, there are computer systems out there. They are designing for HR. Yeah,
Mm,
seriously.
mm,
And pretty much companies, there are some companies out there who are doing this because they've gotten so many sexual harassment complaints, so many EO
yep.
complaints, so many complaints and everything else. But and then you get people who will sue the HR, who will sue the company, saying, "Oh, you guys didn't want to protect me. You guys are racist." Well, the problem with the computer algorithm is that I want you to show me the line where it has the racism
Mm,
and the sexism. I think that's a great solution, but it's like, man, like the more people complain about wages and everything else, the more you're gonna make somebody want to go to a freaking robot. Like, I'll give you a prime example, right? Okay, in this state, we have a college here called USC Columbia, the University of South Carolina, right? So
mm-hmm.
they have administrative staff there who makes buckets of money, right?
Yeah.
And they constantly complain about work hours, about not getting enough vacation hours. And I'm thinking to myself, you're basically glorified desk clerks. A computer
Yes.
could do your job very easily.
Yes.
So you might want to shut the hell up. You
Yes.
might want to, because if I'm the governor or if I'm like a lawmaker, hmm, I'm calling Cisco. I'm calling Cisco. I'm calling Amazon. I'm calling Tesla. I'm calling somebody. Make me something so I can get rid of rid of these people.
Yeah.
And my computer can basically work 24 hours a day. Won't ask for a day off. The person can call in or deal with the computer service 24 hours a day, holidays, you name it. No one needs vacation time, maternity leave, none of that.
Exactly. Like a couple months ago, we had a whole crew working out at a farm, and I went to go
Hmm.
pick them up something to eat. And so I had to order 15 subs at Subway. And this person, I'm not even joking, was like, the next time you have an order like this, you need to call it in. And I was like, what would you have done if 20 people came in after me and all ordered 2 subs? Would you have told all 20 of them people, I'm not making 40 subs? And I just thought, is this, and young little things, but I'm like, isn't this your job? Like, isn't your job to make the food? And why would
Yeah.
you complain on behalf of Subway that I just came in and bought 15 subs? Like, I just made you money for your company. You were hired to do this. How are we in this position where you're complaining about doing your job that you're paid for? And yeah, you're damn right. I would have rather clicked that shit on the internet and not dealt with you.
Yeah.
And pretty soon a robot's going to be able to put my sub together. And then what are you going to be
Yeah.
doing? Living in your parents'
I
basement
remember, man.
complaining.
I remember when Blockbuster was still around.
Mm,
I'll never forget. I was with my mom. I was a kid then, and we rented some video. I can't remember what's the. I think it's a game or like a movie or something, but whatever. And I remember the front store clerk was so nasty. She was so disgusting, and she was so smug about it. So smug. Some years later, I go back by there, and the store is closing, and she's still there.
Mm,
And that smile was not so smug. It's like, again, people run their mouth, thinking that you cannot be replaced.
yeah.
No, you can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. You can. All right. So,
Yeah,
final question. I see
yeah,
this a lot on Twitter. And
yeah.
I follow a lot of Black conservatives on Twitter, but the number
Mhm.
one attack seems to be that if you are conservative or you vote for Trump, you are racist. Now,
Well,
Dion, I know my listeners cannot see you, but I'm having a hard
right.
time understanding that. So you're racist against yourself?
Well, here's the thing, right? All right. So this is not genetic. It is more ingrained. All right. Understand something that white people have been out of tribal environments for far longer than we have.
Mm,
Okay. Understand that, right? So understand that if you go over to some parts of Africa, even now, they're tribes. They're
yeah.
villages. They're not cities. Most of them are villages and towns and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a very tribal type of mindset, right?
Mm,
So the way that you break that is you set a new trend. You set a new trend. That's what Kanye is doing, right? But um, until that happens, um, we have this extreme in group out group, extreme in group out group type of preference. Whereas if you deviate from what the group says that you are allowed to do, you get ostracized for it.
yeah.
And that's just what it is. Now within the black community, that actually happens. However, it's not even black people who do it like most times. It's white people,
Yeah.
believe it or not. Um, you get them who will say that you're being an Uncle Tom, you being a race trader, you being the usual stuff. I don't want to
Yeah.
bring all that stuff back up, but pretty much the usual. And some of the most emboldened responses that I've gotten are from white people, especially white liberals. They are particularly upset that I won't do what they say. And I
Yeah.
think that too has a historical type of reference with some coastal elites who come from very very rich families or well-to-do families. And when you look into their history, sometimes, in fact, with one guy, I'm not gonna say his name because again, it's not fair. I don't want to attack the guy, but he was pretty mean. But anyways, you if you look back to into some history, especially with like this guy, you find that he comes from slave masters.
Mm.
So they carry on the old Dixiecrat line, and I'm not sure if you know if you or your listeners know what a Dixiecrat is.
Not particularly. I'm sure I've
Okay, a
heard the term.
Dixiecrat. So back in the old days, it was the Democrats getting all this hate about being called racist because they were literally the party of the Klan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so back in the old days, you had Democrats who were openly racist. I
Yeah.
mean, you had some of the most disgusting things said and done here, right here in South Carolina and all across the country. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until recently that, I mean, I say recently, I believe the past 40, 45 years that Democrats have started changing their tune. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But recently, you're starting to see some of that same stuff surface. Now, the racism isn't directed towards black people. This time it's directed towards white people. But with Democrats, there's always an element of racism. It doesn't particularly matter who it is against. It's always present. It's
Interesting.
either going to be racism, sexism, or discrimination against you based on your sexual choices.
Yeah.
Because you've heard one of those three things from several major Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so what I see quite often is projection. The same people who would call me racist for voting for Trump, if you ask them about like white people, I hate white people. Okay, well then you're racist, not or if you were to ask a white person about a black person who votes for Trump, well, I've literally been called the N word for voting. I've been
Mm.
calling a stupid N word because I voted for 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 the president. So my whole thing is that what you're getting is projection, but it goes a little bit deeper than that, right? They have to paint you as a one-dimensional character.
Mm,
Notice how whenever they call you a race trader or Uncle Tom, they don't really give you any other descriptors beyond that
yeah.
because they have to paste you into that box. And whenever someone thinks of you, they gotta think of that mental picture of Black Sambo dancing, buck dancing.
Yeah.
All right, they will never see you as just like a strong and independent Black man who makes their own choices. No, they see you as Sambo buck dancing.
No, you are only a strong, independent Black man if you choose their side.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's,
and what you'll find is that a lot of Black men are going towards the Republican Party because they've noticed the exact same thing that I noticed. Democrats hate men. Have you
mm,
not noticed that? Have you not
yes.
noticed that?
I felt that way when I
They don't
was
like
all
us.
wrapped up with the liberal left. I was like, are we
They
supposed to
don't like
hate
us.
men? Because I love men. I don't want to hate
Yeah.
men. Yeah.
Well, you had this one chick from it's a politician out of Hawaii. You said that men need to shut up about sexual assault, and it's like, well, I was molested 22 times when I was a kid. Do I got to shut up too?
No.
It's
No.
like what the fuck?
I
Like
know.
yeah.
I found myself that way. I was like a year ago too when the abortion issue was hot again because of a couple of
Yeah,
bills that were coming up. And
yeah.
I sat there for a minute and I'm like, why is nobody saying anything about this? And then I suddenly went, it's because we told everyone to shut up because they have a penis. They can't talk about this. And I thought, I'm not sure how helpful that is because the majority of our
Yeah.
lawmakers are men right now. And if we're telling them to shut up, they're not going to be on our side. And if there
Yep.
are things that we need to take care of, they're going to look at us like we're the enemy. I feel like while feminism worked to get women political power, I
Yeah.
feel like it actually did the opposite and made us more divisive. And now
Well,
we
I
have to
think
identify everything as female this and woman this. And it's like we're creating a line between us. And I thought we were about unity and being equal.
well that's the whole thing. The feminists, I don't subscribe to all the 48 the all the 48 laws of power, but there is one that they should have paid heed to, and that is know when you won. That was the
Yeah.
problem. They just went too far.
Yeah.
They won back in what I would say 2004.
Yeah.
You not they women had equal rights for a long time, but they won. I mean, they won. I mean, between the domestic violence laws, the child custody laws, you name it, they won, and they just kept pushing it. And I think that it's got to the point where even women are tired of the smack. You know?
Yes, yes, I am.
Yeah,
International Women's Day was yesterday, and all of it. Now we're supposed to be angry. We're supposed to rise up in our
right.
anger and take our anger and use it as our power because angry men are seen as powerful. And I'm like, I don't see angry men as powerful. And I grew up my whole life knowing you do not piss off a woman.
Right.
So I don't want to be associated with anger. We are associating women with anger. What kind of message is that? Like angry woman, angry woman. And I realize there's also a negative narrative within the Black community of the angry Black woman. So we're going to take that. And there's this woman, Nina Turner, who was like, yeah, we are. And now we're going to harness it and embrace it. And I'm like, I'm so confused because I thought the angry woman narrative was bad and now we want
Yeah.
it to be good, but we don't want to transcend our anger and turn it into something else. We actually just want to be angry. I don't want to be angry. For
Well,
what?
um,
There is no glass ceiling keeping me from doing a damn thing. Nothing. There
well, the way
really
that you
isn't.
well, the way that you know that the feminists won is that they 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 then started advocating for people who weren't even women, and that's where you
Uh-huh.
you get into the whole turf thing. Have
And
you have you been hearing about that?
yeah, it's confusing as hell. It's confusing as hell.
I watched the feminists go at trans people, and I was like, I told y'all this was only a matter of time.
Glenn Beck was talking about that like 15 years ago. He
Yeah,
was like, we're going to get to a point where women and the gay community have fought so hard for rights. And then now all of a sudden, none of it's going to mean anything. And we're back to giving men the power. And that's how it feels for me. And if you are trans, I'm not judging you, but I am seeing a narrative that is telling me now, it doesn't matter if you're a woman. What have I been
Yeah.
fighting for 100 years? What have women
Yeah.
been fighting for? If at the end of the day, a man can dress up as a woman and then go, now I'm a woman. And we're like, yes, you are. No, you're not.
Well, the thing, listen, I have no issue with that. In fact, I've actually lived with a trans person before. I have no issue with that. In fact, if you think I hate trans people, I let that person live in my house without paying rent for 3 goddamn months. Now, that's
That's
if
love. Free rent.
that's not hatred. Have you not seen the rent prices? But yeah, I just I I talked with them, and the one thing that they said was that they are sick of people trying to inject trans issues into issues that don't really matter,
Mm,
right? So, like for example, with the whole sports thing, right? Okay, listen, I get it. You want to compete against girls. You've been born a boy. I understand that. Okay, but tell you what, but let me tell you what I want to do. I want to play in the NBA, and I want to make $20 million a year minimum, and I want several mansions. Is that gonna happen for me? No, because life is not fair.
yeah.
That's just what it is, and that's not me being cruel. It's just me being honest. Like there are plenty of things that I want to do. Hell, I want to be in doggone movies, but I just can't act. So I want to be a male model, but I like cake. So it's just not going to happen, you know. And and so I think that to a large extent, especially for the people who start breaching into, well, I, I don't feel like I'm actually human, like the other kin. When you start getting that far, when you demand people, give you certain abilities to compete against women and to enter, female spaces, that's when you start to try to push your ideology off onto other people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you do in the privacy of your own home or even out in public, I don't particularly care about, so long as it doesn't affect other people.
Yeah.
But now, would you want your 12-year-old who's 6'4" already and was born a boy, take some hormones, put on a wig, and now he's a freaking girl? Yeah, I think you're going a little bit too far there.
Yeah. And sometimes
Yeah,
I question whether or not it's the child that actually wants to go through this, or if
I
it's the
doubt it.
parents that are just trying to exploit it and make a dollar
Right,
off of it. And because I mean, that
well,
happens. That happens with kids that
it
that do
happens.
pageants. It happens with kids that dance. It happens with kids that act. We know parents will exploit their children. So why should this be any different? And
Right.
that's
Well,
where
well,
we
the
have
thing
to
the thing
start
about it.
asking harder questions.
Right. Well, the thing about it is, let's in the interest of a full disclosure, there are some kids out there who definitely want to do it.
Yeah.
I do believe that that one basketball player, what's his name, Dwayne Wade. I do believe that his trans kid wanted to be trans, and that's fine with me. Hey, look, hey, I can't really affect that. I can't. I don't know what goes on in that particular household. That's not that's not my say, and I'm not the parent.
Yeah.
However, I do think that when you give your 12-year-old puberty blockers,
Yeah.
or you get your freaking 12-year-old, surgeries and stuff, and that's life altering. There's
Yeah.
no reversing like a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that is a form of child abuse.
You know,
I
I
do
just
believe that.
I just recently read a story about a woman who did start transitioning.
Right.
She started at a young age and she's older now and she's been taking all these different hormones and she's very masculine and she's mad. She's like, the doctors didn't push back against me hard enough. My parents didn't push me hard enough. I shouldn't have gone through with this. And I think, are we going to see a generation turn around suing their parents and communities, doctor communities that jumped on this bandwagon to appease and acquiesce to their children, and now are going to have to face some legal consequences? And what is that going to look like? And that just
Right.
creates so much confusion for the rest of society, as we're just spectators and we're like, I don't know what this is about. This ain't going on in my
And
house, but
I,
am I
I don't
supposed to
even
be
think like
mad?
most
And
people are even like aware of this stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people are unaware of a lot of things and then maybe too hyper aware about a lot of other things. Like, did you see Donald
Yeah.
Trump's tweet? No, I
Yeah.
was
He
busy.
tweeted poo poo on Twitter.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the people, like I tweet poo poo on Twitter too. I don't see anybody getting hyped over that. Like, where's my
Exactly.
attention?
Exactly. Exactly. Anyways, I have to roll. Um,
Yes. Thank
I
you, Dion. I appreciate
You're
this so
welcome.
much.
It's
And
one we got.